Welcome to this explainer. Modern vehicles are basically rolling computers. But have you ever wondered how they manage to coordinate complex electronic communication across hundreds of different components without just drowning in miles of heavy, ridiculously expensive copper wiring? Well, today we're going to unpack a brilliant piece of engineering that solves exactly that problem.
So you might be wondering, why not just use the standard high-speed CAN bus for everything? I mean, cars already rely on the controller area network for mission-critical stuff, like telling the engine to inject fuel or deploying an airbag in mere milliseconds. But here's the catch. Hooking up a simple window motor or a seat switch to a highly robust high-speed CAN network is incredibly expensive. Honestly, it's literally like using a supercomputer to turn on a single light bulb. It requires complex transceivers, twisted pair wiring, and costly microcontrollers at every single connection point. Enter the Local Interconnect Network, or LIN for short. Conceived back in the late 90s by a consortium of major automakers, LIN was specifically designed to be the standardized, budget-friendly sidekick to the CAN bus. It steps in to handle all the simple, non-critical chores, which completely frees up the CAN bus to focus on actual driving and safety. Instead of prioritizing high speed and extreme fault tolerance, LIN goes all in on simplicity and massive cost reduction. Okay, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be walking through the network architecture, the anatomy of a LIN frame, the physical layer, a grand comparison with CAN, and finish up with some practical applications.
Let's kick things off with part 1, network architecture. The whole protocol operates on a really brilliant manager and worker setup. Essentially, LIN relies on a single master, multi-slave architecture. The master node has absolute control. It dictates a strict time-triggered schedule, deciding exactly when every single message gets sent. The slave nodes, think of your window switches or climate sensors, well, they're completely reactive. They only speak when spoken to by the master. And because no two nodes ever try to talk at the exact same time, LIN doesn't need any of the complex, expensive bus arbitration mechanisms that the CAN bus uses to prevent data collisions. Now, here's a crucial number, 16. A LIN cluster is purposefully limited in size. It's capped at a strict maximum of 16 nodes per network. So that means exactly one master and up to 15 slaves. This hard limit is really important because it ensures the master can easily pull every single device within a guaranteed time frame, keeping the whole system predictable and highly reliable for its specific tasks. Zooming out to the bigger picture here, that master node is typically an electronic control unit, or ECU, that also happens to be hooked up to the high-speed CAN bus. So it essentially acts as a gateway, translating and bridging all the data from these simple, localized slave components right back to the main brain of the car. Moving right along to part 2, anatomy of a LIN frame. Unlike CAN, where any node can just jump in and initiate a message, every single LIN message frame is split into 2 very clean halves. The first half is the header, which is always sent by the master to announce the task. The second half is the response, which actually contains the data. Sometimes this includes diagnostic frames to check system health, and it's filled in by the designated slave node, or occasionally, even the master itself. So here's exactly how this deterministic sequence plays out. First, the master wakes everyone up with a sync break, just a long dominant signal. Next is this absolutely brilliant piece of engineering, the sync byte, which is always the hex value 0x55. Why? Because in binary, that creates a perfect alternating pattern of ones and zeros. It allows the super cheap, slightly inaccurate oscillators inside the slave nodes to measure the timing and perfectly synchronize their clocks to the master. Then, the master sends an identifier byte to say exactly who needs to talk. Finally, the designated slave jumps in with up to 8 bytes of data, followed by a checksum just to make sure no bits were corrupted by electrical noise. All right, part 3, the physical layer. This is where the massive cost savings really come into play. Instead of heavy twisted pairs of wires, LIN uses just one single data wire and relies on the vehicle's ground. It's based on the established ISO 9141 K-line standard, meaning it operates right off the car's 12-volt or 24-volt battery. It uses pull-up resistors to keep the line at a high recessive voltage until a node pulls it low to transmit a bit. It also has these great power-saving sleep modes, so nodes can completely power down and just be woken up by the bus when they're actually needed. And rather than dynamic setups, everything is strictly predefined using a static LIN description file, or LDF. That means the network behaves exactly the same way every single time you turn the key. Now, lock this number in your head, 20 kilobits per second.
That is the absolute maximum speed of a LIN bus. I know, compared to modern tech, that sounds almost comically slow, but actually, it's precisely engineered to be that slow. By keeping the baud rate low, engineers drastically minimize electromagnetic radiation and interference on that unshielded single wire. This ensures highly reliable communication without needing expensive shielding or complex transceiver chips.
Which brings us to part 4, the grand comparison.
Looking at this breakdown, you quickly realize that choosing between CAN and LIN isn't about which one is better. It's a calculated engineering trade-off. CAN is vastly faster, it supports dynamic multi-master communication, and has highly robust error handling, but it absolutely requires 2 wires and much more expensive hardware. LIN, on the other hand, trades away that extreme speed and multi-master flexibility for immense cost savings, single-wire simplicity, and a beautifully lightweight protocol that can run on a basic, cheap 8-bit microcontroller.
And finally, part 5, practical applications.
You know, you're actually interacting with the LIN bus constantly without even realizing it. Every time you roll down a power window, adjust your power seat, turn on the wipers, or click a cruise control button on your steering wheel, you're relying on LIN. These are the perfect use cases, right? They don't require sub-millisecond reaction times. A fraction of a second delay when rolling down your window is completely imperceptible to us. But using LIN to connect those door switches saves the manufacturer massive amounts of wiring, weight, and component cost per vehicle.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to think about this for a second. We are entering an era of fully autonomous driving, massive LiDAR data streams, and ultra-fast automotive Ethernet. But surprisingly, the brilliantly optimized, low-cost LIN bus is projected to just keep growing. Because honestly, no matter how advanced that supercomputer in the dashboard becomes, you still need an efficient, super cheap way to turn on the dome light. So I'll leave you with this question. As vehicles advance toward automotive Ethernet for heavy data, will the simple LIN bus continue to survive as the master of our car's basic chores? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep questioning how the everyday technology around you actually works.